It's Ada from Poison Rock, and today I have with me Fia from Exiled Hope. First of all, how are you, Fia?
I'm great. How about you?
I'm doing well, no matter despite the weather, but we're in winter, so that's normal. So,
Yeah.
first of all, of course, we are here to talk a little bit about this upcoming album in April 11th, 20, of this year. Of course, we are already in
Yep.
2025. But
Yeah, it's
before
crazy.
digging, yeah, the time flies.
I know.
Yeah. Before digging about, of course, the start to talking and mentioning, because we don't want to say nothing too much, but we want to create suspense for the fan. I always find it interesting to know who is behind everything, like the musician, the singer in this case, like so your own personal journey. So how you started, how you getting close with music, and especially when you realize that now I want to do like I want to be more serious in this field.
Yeah. So that's a very long story.
Okay.
I started out, I was always a musical person. I have been singing my whole life, and I started playing guitar when I was 12. I started with classical guitar, and then I moved on to electric guitar later that year. I played classical guitar with some friends for a while. I had a couple of like smaller bands in high
Yeah.
school, and they never stuck around. They never like did anything, but it was my introduction to playing with other musicians and collaborating, my introduction to the musical world. Um, but I never like it was always a very strong interest of mine, but I never thought seriously about turning this into a career until fairly recently, until probably like late in my college career, like when I was around 19, 20. That was when I finally started thinking, okay, this is something that I could actually make a career out of and
Yeah.
make a bigger part of my, identity as a person, basically. Because I went into college with the intention of, being some kind of like economist or political analyst. That was
Okay.
my interests at the time, and music was just, I it
Passion.
was just something I wanted to pursue on the side, and I never considered turning it into an actual career. But then I took a couple of classes in music business when I was in
Oh, that's
college.
cool. That's
Yeah, and that the professor for that class actually brought up the idea to me of becoming a music lawyer. And he was like, "Hey, this would be a good combination of all your interests, and you should consider doing it." And at first, I was like, I don't know about that. That sounds kind of boring." But I did research on it, and I learned more about it, and I talked to people in the field. Like I set up interviews with people who were in the field of music law, and I talked to them about
You
what
were
they
doing
do.
interviews to them?
Yeah, yeah, just like informational
Okay.
interviews, like, asking them to get on a phone call so they
Yeah.
can, talk about their career and things like that. So I did that for a while, and I got more and more interested in that career path. And then I took the law school admission test, the LSAT, and I got into law school. And
Congratulations, that is not easy. Though.
yeah, yeah, I'm not a good test taker, so it took me like 8 months to study for that test, whereas I think most people only take like 3 or 4 months to study for it. But it took me a little while longer, but here I am, still got there. And but yeah, so that was kind of the first that was my first step toward
Yeah.
being more serious about music and realizing that, I can have a career in this field while, still, being a professional and doing other things that are adjacent to music that support me making the music that I
Yeah.
want to create and being a musician.
So, and that's of course, and how, because of course, like, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm using the data on in the internet. It was in
Mhm.
2020 that Exile Op released the first full length
Yes.
self-titled. So, how did we get from your career, like in college and graduating from business, music business, law, and then into being in a band and just composing an album? How we got cover this step?
Yeah, yeah. So I think my first year of college, I put a little band together with some of my friends who lived in the same dorm, and we just started playing together. And it was kind of like this indie alternative rock band. It was very different from the style that I play in Exiled Hope. And so that was a lot of fun. Like that was another great, collaborative experience that I got like in person with other people. And then COVID hit, and we couldn't play together anymore.
Yeah.
So I had to learn how to record myself on my own in GarageBand at first, and then I moved to Logic. And so yeah, I had to learn how to put all the pieces together and remotely instead of being in a room collaborating with other
Yeah.
people. And then the band kind of eventually fizzled out and dissolved as the years went by, and we graduated from college, and COVID was an ongoing thing for a while, and so we weren't able to practice and work together for a while. But during that period in 2020, I got the idea of, hey, I don't need to wait around for other people to make these ideas come to life. I can, I have the capability to record myself and put everything together and write these songs myself and
Oh, fuck, congratulations.
do everything solo. And so that's kind of how Exiled Hope started. And
It
I
started
didn't
from you.
know what's that?
Started from you, just
Yeah,
the pandemic, putting all your knowledge there.
pretty much. Yeah.
Great.
'Cause
I mean, it's not, don't see that every day.
yeah. I get bored really easily. I always have been like that, and I don't like sitting around waiting for other people to do stuff
Welcome to
with
the
me.
club.
Yeah. Like as a kid, I was always jumping from hobby to hobby. Like I at first wanted to be an author, and I still love storytelling, and I still love writing stories that comes out in my music. But that was probably like if you'd asked me when I was, I don't know, 7, what I wanted to be when I grew up,
That
I would
was
have said
good.
an author.
Okay.
And then eventually, like I got into drawing, and if you asked me like in middle school what I wanted to be, I would have said I wanted to be an animator. And then like music started becoming more the forefront in high school. And so,
Yeah.
if you asked me in high school what I wanted to be, I would have said, for the career stability, back in high school, I kind of wanted to be an economist or a historian or
Yeah.
something like that.
So we're just almost the
But
same
like,
path. It could be. I studied economy too, and I
yeah.
also studied history too, because
Mhm.
like so I get you, and I understand completely what you're doing, but you literally have a lot of skill that combined with the music career can give 360 degrees of everything. That's amazing. This is
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah. It's my goal to like bring all of my weird interests together into one,
Exactly.
build your own career sort of thing. That's
Yeah.
kind of what I've been doing, taking little pieces of everything that I enjoy doing and trying to build that into what I do for a living. So,
It's amazing. And of course, like the other, because like the first full length was released just by yourself. So it just was only you, were also was only you on the in Exile Op back in the time. So
mhm.
when we gather the other people in it.
So Exiled Hope is still only me, but
Okay.
I do have a mix engineer that I
Okay.
that I'm friends with who works out of England. So he does all the mixing remotely. I send him the files, and
Okay. So there's another member in the crew.
yeah, he is. I would consider him a crew member. He's not like a member of the band. He
No,
doesn't
of
like do
course,
the
of
actual
course.
songwriting, but he sort of brings my ideas to life by making them sound a lot better than they did on the first and second records. Because the first and second albums, I didn't really know what
And
I was doing. That was just me
Angel
experimenting.
of Greytown. Let's say that he's an Angel of Greytown. Just to say to the people with the name. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Those two albums were just me kind of throwing things together, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I did back then. I didn't know that you had to mix and master music in order to make it sound good. So I was just kind of putting stuff. I was just putting
Somehow
stuff out
find
there. Yeah, just for the heck of it. I was like, you know what? Let's see how this goes. Let's see if people like it. And yeah, I'm surprised that people still enjoy those records because I listen back to them and I'm like, oh boy, I could do so much better now. But yeah, I think having a professional mix engineer in the team really
like
helped bring everything together. So,
yeah.
he's fantastic. And but also like I'm just better as a musician now going into my third Exiled Hope album. And
Yeah, because of course
yeah,
now the Apocrypha,
Apocrypha.
Apocrypha, yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna be the third album. But in between, there has been a lot of single release, a lot of collaboration, and if I read
Oh,
right,
yeah.
also some movie or you compose music for some. So, well, so even in the music industry, in the movie industry, you put your hands on.
Yeah.
What
That's
happened that because it's really cool, though, too.
yeah, thank you. Like when I was young, I was really into like movie soundtracks, and so probably one of my earliest associations with music was with film and with visual storytelling aspects.
Yeah.
And so I started thinking, as I got further along into Exile Hope, hey, I should be, thinking about, doing movie scores and turning this into an actual like cinematic experience. And so I wanted to do like film soundtracks, and my longtime collaborator Metal Matt was friends with a YouTuber John Shelton, and we started like making music for his little short films. You know, they're very small projects, and they're
Yeah,
still
but it
on
doesn't matter.
YouTube if you want to look
It's
them up.
cool.
But yeah, that led to bigger indie film opportunities, and so that's kind of what led to What Happens After Midnight, which was the film that I made the soundtrack for. Was it last year or the year
I'm
before? I
gonna
don't.
watch it definitely. I'm really interested because that's also that people I think can understand all your influences, like your taste about movies, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, I'm a huge fantasy nerd, and so I love that. And actually, one of the films that I did a soundtrack for that's still in development is called Hallowed Paths, and it's a retelling of a Finnish folktale. So I get to
Also,
bring out all the like folk
yeah.
elements.
It's
It's
not
really
easy, you know, it's not easy because Finnish folklore always stands in its own cradle. That's there. People are always, we are like our Vikings, whatever.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
Finnish folklore, as you know, it's another story. You take the myth is that Kavella, something like that. It takes from another. So doing a movie about Finnish folklore, especially from other completed part in another continent, it's really interesting.
Yeah, it's really cool, and it's made by a college student in Florida, so it's really cool.
That's gonna take
He's
the
a
one
huge
thing
fan
is
of
different, yeah.
Yeah, he's a huge fan of Swallow the Sun, you know, one of Finland's biggest doom metal bands. And so he messaged me on Bandcamp and was like, "Hey, I really love your music. Do you want to do the soundtrack for this film?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, let's do it," because we have the exact same music
Yeah.
taste. You know, we were kind of kindred spirits right away. We hit it off like immediately, and so the film is still in development, but that's going to be a huge thing that
I'm gonna
I'm
thinking
so
about
proud of it.
gonna thinking about interviewing this director. So we can do an interview with him or with her because it could be interesting just to know also to get his work to bring his work in Finland. You know, like as a
That would be
yeah,
that would be fantastic. I think he would love
yeah,
that. I need to bring that
yeah,
up to him when I get the
yeah.
chance.
We have to be in contact after, so we have to exchange these things. That's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
I love
absolutely.
this is how a collaboration started and develop passion and things get serious then you see. That's
Yes.
love that. So we were really feel you have such a beautiful, I'm telling you honestly, a beautiful career and path in music journey that you can make a book about it because starting from
Aw.
like a passion, starting from a journey from really like in the economy, in the law, all these things combined with the folklore, with the I don't know, playing instrument, managing how to record them, also all instrument, also and singing. I mean, it's not easy. You could be your. I mean, you don't need like a manager or something like maybe to just help you to be easier. Take it. It is a things that,
Yeah.
but you could really have a better eye when doing the legal part of and the economical part of music, which is not easy
Absolutely.
sometimes. Like no one can take take advantage of me because I know what we're doing.
Yeah, and that was kind of the goal with becoming a music lawyer. I graduate from law school in May, which is surreal to think about because I've been working toward this for so long. But yeah, like I went into this wanting to become my own lawyer, basically,
Yeah.
and wanting to help my peers with legal issues because, doing all of this myself and doing all these collaborations, there are so many issues that could potentially arise, and I
Yeah,
wanted to be
yeah.
as independent as possible and learn how to address them
That's a great.
myself in an intelligent educated fashion because law is so much more complicated than people make it out to be. Like there are so many people and this is based on US law, but there are so many people like on the internet who spew their misconceptions about copyright law and trademark law, and I'm sitting there reading that going, oh god, no.
Yeah,
You're so wrong about that.
yeah.
And so yeah, I thought it was a really important part of my music career to have this legal background and be able to perform this service for myself and for other people, and it's really helped me like network with other musicians and find new opportunities. So again, it's kind of about bringing everything together holistically and
Yeah.
creating my own path
Yeah,
essentially.
and also because of course we add this kind of background now that we spoke about, let's say, that technical side of your music, how everything
Mhm.
brought this up. But what about the core of Exiled Hope? How we can describe your project, Exiled Hope?
Yeah, so there was a YouTube video that I watched actually fairly recently. It was called This Is Why You're Still Haunted by Lord of the Rings, and it's all about how fantasy um, appeals to this idea in us as people to strive for something higher and to, work toward, creating a better world. And it's all about, it's aspirational essentially, and it's meant to be inspirational and to make us feel like we're part of something greater than what
Yeah,
we are. And that's kind of what I try to do with Exiled Hope. Like the name itself on a surface level is a reference to the main character of the first album. Her name is Hope. She's exiled from her city because she discovers a dark secret that the government is trying to keep from the people. And so she starts a rebellion and starts a
it's
war
like
essentially.
yeah, it's like
And
it can be your own like kind of a movie author whatsoever, like
I
movie
would love to.
movie slash book. But
Yeah, absolutely. And on a deeper level, Exiled Hope is kind of a metaphor for, that hope for a better world that, fantasy brings to us,
uh,
that we exile from ourselves as we grow
right,
older and as we kind of become more jaded with the world and we, see how the world really works when, you're
yeah,
not a kid anymore, you're kind of off on your own,
you're
you're
right.
figuring it out. And it's the music and the themes and the songwriting are kind of meant to say, don't get rid of this completely. It's still an important part of you, and you need it in order to navigate life as an adult. You can't
Yeah,
shut out your fantasies, your childlike sense of wonder, and the things
exactly.
that you love just because you want to be seen as more mature and because you want to fit in this world that's fundamentally not really made for us.
Well,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
and it's important that you're saying that because there is a lot of in the world, in the social media, every type of social media that is going on. The people are some, let's call it content creator, influencer, whatsoever, that are even promoting kind of this view of the stoic person, like grounded, cynic, I'm better than you, like kind of a fashion way to be, forgetting that. Having that playfulness in ourselves, having that like that hope that brings you to even dream about things that what we used to do when we were kids. Because even when, for example, I saw that there is this amazing guy that draws people in the metro in the United States, and he also draw these people with the incredible, weirdest fashion taste. And the
Mhm.
story they say is like almost always the same. Don't stop to be your own child. Like stop to be child. Just being always playful, because
Yeah.
that's like always. I don't know. Being never stop dreaming and be wherever you want to. You are, no matter if you want to get out of the home. Of course, we have to. We live in a society, so we can go out naked. We have to respect certain
Yeah.
rules, but
Uh,
just never stop dreaming. Like you're a beautiful example of it. You're in a field. Maybe tomorrow you want to pursue another field. What is stopping you to doing that?
Yeah, I mean, your life is whatever you make of it, and you can build whatever you want. And that's
Exactly.
kind of the message that I try to
That's
put out
beautiful.
there with my music, essentially. And my music does come from this playful sense of, oh, what if I take elements from this song or this artist and I put them together with elements from this other artist? Like, what's that gonna sound like? It's pure curiosity, and it's motivated just by this desire to play with different sounds and different, emotions and figure out what I can do with that and put it together in the context of this greater story.
Yeah.
Like I posted on Threads yesterday, like so many people underestimate how much of my music is inspired by just haha, what if Nightwish made black metal? And yeah, that's probably the essence of,
Yeah.
that's my ethos when it comes to
Yes.
making music is
That's
just,
beautiful.
let's have fun with it. Let's play with
Yeah.
it. I think people get too serious about, locking themselves into these expectations and these
Um,
genre boundaries, and it gets boring to write the same song over and over again. So you
exactly.
have to
Art
continue to.
doesn't. Let's say that art it doesn't have boundaries. Could be
Yes.
whether it could be a movie, and one of the most let's say visionary director unfortunately passed away yesterday. David Lynch, for may rest in peace. It was a visionary. I mean, what he created was beyond. I'm still now trying to understand Mulholland Drive. So he
Yeah.
created things amazing, like for the world. So just to see people even artists like him having this kind of vision. I think there is millions of people in the world that has that, even each one of us probably in different field. So we never should put limits. If you want to, I mean, because even you just writing your own lyrics, making each album kind of a story, you're writing a book basically. That's it. You're writing your own tale, your own.
Yeah.
And I want to just also about the artwork,
Yeah.
who is behind it, or if it's also you, and where does it come from, the main inspiration for the artwork? Because I find out that recently people always forget to ask about the artwork.
Yeah.
We also use about AI now, right now, that even if it's with AI, people forget. Sometimes it's real artists, and I think it's nice to mention if it's a real artist or even AI. No problem with that.
Yeah, I am staunchly against AI for album artwork, but that's another discussion. I all of my artwork is public domain art from 18th century, 19th century oil paintings. Most of it is that. Some of it is even older. Some of it is like 1500s, 1600s oil paintings. And I just fell in love with that style a couple of years ago, and I realized that like not a whole lot of artists are still
Yeah,
doing that these days.
yeah,
And there's something powerful about having the historical context embedded in the artwork, like
exactly.
intrinsically, and then having people see it associated with my music, and they kind of go, "Oh, this music is using this piece of art from 500
Yeah.
years ago. There's got to be
No,
something significant there." So it kind of brings with it its own appeal and its own curiosity, and it
of course.
piques people's interest because it carries with it its own associations, and I'm
Yeah.
kind of taking the associations that these historically significant pieces of art have, and then transforming them into having somewhat of a new meaning when put in the context of my music.
Yeah, and of course, and about especially the last album that is up, has to be still yet to be released. What is the, if we can say, which is the this painting that you chose, and how we can connect it to the history behind the last upcoming album?
Yeah, so the painting for Apocrypha is The Deluge by John Martin. It's an 1834 painting
Okay.
of a storm on the ocean, and it really, to me, it
Wow.
represents the tumult and inner turmoil that the main character faces as he goes through this journey. And on a more literal level, I guess it represents the giant, crazy mishmash of
Okay.
music that I put on this album and all these different styles that I combine because it's stormy. It sounds very turbulent.
Okay.
But there's this sort of inner coherence there still. And it's still, the color scheme is very dark and it represents the main sort of feeling of the album. Like everything is very dark and stormy, and you're trying to work through it and work through that inner storm and find what your truth is at the end.
So it's a so we let's say that we have kind of anticipated to the fan, to the people, to the viewers, that this upcoming album is gonna be like also a journey. So of course we talk about Exiled Hope, about what is the meaning, what is the as a full length, like was this kind of, like you mentioned, this story about a this girl rebelling, and this act of rebellion, let's say. And of course I have to ask about Angel of Greytown, because
Yeah, Angel of Greytown is the sequel to the first album. It takes
okay,
place a couple hundred years after the events of the first album when the city has kind of descended into darkness, and the history and culture of the city has been erased in
okay,
the upcoming the takeover by
yeah.
the tyrannical government that rules the town. They've just kind of decided to erase the city's history and culture and its art in order to establish its own, this sense of
Yeah,
hopelessness in the people, so that they think, there is nothing
they live the
except
exactly, yeah.
there's nothing but worship of the government in this city. There is nothing left for
Like
us, and
more
we
post-apocalyptic, post-apocalyptic.
yeah, it's kind of it's I would call it like post-apocalyptic or maybe even dystopian.
Okay.
Very inspired by 1984, Fahrenheit
Okay.
451. So it's very like the themes are very inspired by dystopian literature and also actual history. A lot of it is inspired by the events of the Russian Revolution, things like that, and the events that followed that, because as you can
Wow.
tell, I'm kind of a history nerd. So
I love
it was,
that you're speaking my own language. I love that.
yeah, so
Okay,
it's like
glad to grab a book.
yeah, so it's taking some events of real history and putting them into musical form in like this fantasy world. So there are a lot of fantasy authors that do that, like C.S. Lewis and Tolkien. But so yeah, the story of that album is there's this historian who uncovers the secrets that Hope left behind after she was executed at the end of the first album, and he's kind of trying to piece together what their past really means and what these people who used to live in the city left behind, and he's trying to sort of recreate the city's culture and take back their identity as a people.
So it kind of reminds me a little bit about, even if it's not completely like these things about, discovering secret, what is hidden by the government. This TV show that is still going on in second series, Silo. This kind of, they had to find out what is going on because they live in this silo. They think there is only one silo and there is a thousand of
Yeah,
silo. It's a beautiful TV show. It's also it's not, of course, but based, let's say, to the people still until now. It's not based on true events. But
yeah,
the fact that you're putting like art, like so painting in your music, in your cover art, that also are connected with history. So it's not like the contemporary artwork is an actual painting for centuries ago, and you
yeah,
connected them with a story that is also, of course, on fiction, but based on true events, historical true events. You're giving to people an opportunity to find out and to learn, and like why history is important, history including
yeah.
arts, poetry, and everything. So thank you, we need that, because I love when music is about having fun, enjoying, having parties, but it's important also to not forget the fact. And for people that are maybe less, like maybe in reading because they find it boring, and maybe more
Yeah.
interested, your job, your work here with putting with Exiled Hope is important. So thank you for doing that as a fellow historian nerd.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Of course, I
Yeah,
think historian.
I
Well, yeah, sorry.
I think it's really important to recognize that what it to ask ourselves like what is our
Ah,
society without art and without culture, because there are a lot of people who who kind of devalue art and they don't really see the value that it has to society, but
exactly.
we truly are nothing without art and without our culture and
Uh-huh.
without our history. So that's kind of that's another one of the main themes that I talk about in my music, and it's all about creating your identity as a culture through art.
Exactly, and of course, like as a like we said, like as an historian nerd, both there is a certain, let's say, historical period that you're like maybe you want to dig more and write more maybe in the future, like that's my that's my weak point in history.
Yeah, yeah. My dad was reading the Gulag Archipelago a while ago. It's a true, like, I think it's an autobiography about someone who was imprisoned in like Russian concentration camps, and he was he's talking about his story and how he escaped, and how he's
Yeah.
chronicling the what life was like under that sort of authoritarian regime. And that's probably something that I want to delve
People, yeah.
deeper into in my music, like in a hit it's still in a fantasy context. Like, I'm
Yeah,
not
of
trying to
course.
beat you over the head with what with
No,
what
but
the
to make it
story's about.
easier to the people, of course, but it's
Yeah, because I do want to leave room for people's own personal interpretations. I don't like music that kind of beats you over the head with what the song is supposed to be about, and it's very preachy about the message. So I do want to leave room for people to build their own meaning into the music, but I
yeah,
also do think it's interesting to take like actual events and people's
yeah,
actual experiences and figure out what we can learn from that in the modern context, and then make that into you know, put that into a medium that's kind of
exactly.
easy for people to deal with and
Yeah,
understand.
exactly. And of course, about all of this, your music, did you already brought your music live or you're thinking to do that?
I'm probably not going
Okay.
to perform live because my music is created more with the intention that it's going to be, licensed for soundtrack purposes. I'm really interested
Okay.
in licensing and
Love
potentially
that. Love that.
getting my music placed in TV shows and movies and
I love
games.
that. Yeah, I love
My other band, Forgotten Shrine, is very inspired by the Assassin's Creed soundtrack, the Elder Scrolls soundtrack, and so we kind of create our music with the intention that it's going to be synced to film, TV, video
that.
games. We're going to continue like making
Because
soundtrack type
you
music.
really you really know what you want. I like that. You know what you want, like I'm this, like that. And that's what I think brings kind of, I don't say brings success, but I don't in that kind that brings you to achieve your goals, because you know
Yeah,
what
yeah.
you want and going straight forward to it. And you're like, I know what I want, that's it. You are not like moving in the water, like literally swimming in the ocean without not knowing where to go. You know where you want to go. So I really like that. And I think it's important especially nowadays, with all these musicians and artists and writers all over the world, knowing what you want.
Mhm.
Because people can say, oh, but you wouldn't mind to play in front of 30,000 people. Maybe your music will be just, say, no, I don't care. Like, I don't care. Thanks, but I'm happy. I'm happier if my music is in, I don't know, in a movie, on a theater, in big theater,
Yeah.
in 30.
Yeah, like honestly, to me, I would love to like win an Oscar for soundtrack, for a
Love
film.
that.
I think that'd be really cool. Like obviously
Very,
that's not why I do it, but it'd be a really cool little bonus.
why not even get a nomination with the years? I mean, why not? I mean, that's
Yeah.
there's even such amazing. But there's one main composer that in all the music career that give you kind of inspiration, even now, kind of music that you said, I love that. I love this music composer.
Yeah, Avantasia is definitely the biggest one for me. They're a German like metal
Yeah.
supergroup, and I absolutely love them. Like the minute I first heard, I think their first album that I heard was The Wicked Symphony, and like from
Yeah.
the first note, I was like, this is so cool. I feel heard as a songwriter. I feel seen. Someone else is doing something that I'm kind of aspiring to do, and so I've taken a lot of inspiration from Avantasia through the
That's cool.
years.
So just so before the album is gonna be released, of course, we will talk when the album is gonna be released. We will got more deep into the story of the album itself. There is gonna be the release of other singles, something, or just gonna we go straight with the release of the album.
Um, all the singles have been
Okay.
released, but I'm going to be releasing music videos on my YouTube channel. So if
Okay.
you're interested in following me on YouTube, it's just Exiled Hope, and you can see all my lyric videos on there. I make them myself in CapCut,
Really?
and yeah,
Really?
and so
Okay.
yeah, so just the free version of CapCut. Like I
Yeah,
usually
yeah.
like take film art or take some art that's kind of adjacent to it, that's in the public domain, probably 200 years old, and then I just put that in there. I edit it a little bit, and then I sync the lyrics to the
Yeah.
words in the song. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. I didn't think that I would enjoy doing that because I usually find video editing kind of a pain. But I've found that it's kind of fun, and it's another skill that I have that I can
I
use
mean,
for
yeah.
my advantage
So
and for other
when
people's benefit.
yeah,
So
when I have to edit the interview, then you're gonna say to me like which song, which music video you want that I use as an intro and as an outro, since you're the because you know better than me in the copywriting. I
yeah,
ask you your permission, so you know better than yeah, yeah. You're gonna tell me then what to use. At
yeah.
least
So
yeah.
I think Over For You is probably the
Okay.
best representation of my music to people who've never heard me before because
Okay.
it blends like all of my genres fairly equally. Like there's a little bit of power metal, there's a little bit of symphonic, there's a little bit of folk,
Okay.
there's a little bit of mellow death and some black metal in there. So it's a really holistic mix of everything that I
Yeah.
do, and I'm really proud of the song. So
That's good because also you gave also with this answer you gave also to the people kind of which song they could start listening Exiled Up, for
yeah,
example.
yeah, I think that's a nice, gentle kind of
Yeah,
full introduction to what I do.
that's amazing, and I'm really like blown away by this interview because you have so, and I think there's so much even more to talk about it, even more about
Yeah.
talk about history. So we have to set another interview to talk more in depth about history and how you connect, especially each painting with your own music. It's because that's
Yeah.
especially and even maybe reading some part of the lyrics and I don't know, just it was gonna be
Yeah.
fun. Yeah, I love that. So can I say, Fia, thank you so much for this interview. I was really pleased. I'm really literally blown away. You really have an amazing career. Just I wish you really to see you nominated in some academy, whatever it could be.
Thank
So
you so much.
so congratulations and good luck with this the release of the album. But we will stay in touch. There's the finish thing. We have a couple of interviews to plan.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll
Yeah,
find you on Instagram somehow,
yeah,
and
I'm gonna find you too. Yeah.
yeah.
So thank you so much. It was really a pleasure. And of course, I'm gonna keep you posted about the releasing of this interview. Have a beautiful day. For me, it's evening. For you, still day, afternoon,
Yes.
Spanish. Yeah. So
Thank you so much. This
it
has
was
been
a
so much
play.
fun.
Yeah, for me too. And always being an historian nerd. Always, always.
Yes. Be a
Thank you.
nerd.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
It was a pleasure. Bye.